Hi everyone, this is Jennifer Donogh for another live daily webcast called Jenn Cast. I'm really excited because it's Focus Friday. It's December 6th, and I'm so grateful for advent calendars because I know for sure what the date is every day. I might get the day of the week wrong, but I know for a fact that it is 6 because my son and I had to look for 6 on the advent calendar. So with Focus Friday, what we do is we talk about different habits and pieces that we can really hone in for ourselves and make us all better young female entrepreneurs. Jenn Cast is all about personal development and entrepreneurship. So if you like either one of those two, this is the place for you. The next 15 minutes, I actually am going to bring in a guest co-host in just a moment. Her name is Corey Freeman. She was a guest co-host with me last night on YFE Chat too, and she agreed to come in and chat about some of the things we talked about last night. So without further ado, Corey, thank you so much for joining us. It's great to see you in the morning.
Hi, I'm pumped. It's actually the afternoon now here.
Okay, whatever. It's morning where it counts. Okay.
I'm in the future.
In the future. And yeah, Corey was saying that she has a sandwich guy that might come in and interrupt us. But you know what? That's, like I was saying, that's good TV. So, whatever. And plus I was thinking, wow, sandwich sounds super good right now. It is 10 a.m. here in the Pacific Northwest, but I am also pregnant. So I think a sandwich with mustard and avocado and cheese and mush it on together and grill it.
Mine's just turkey and cheese, and then they give me little condiment packets. I kind of assemble most of the sandwich myself, so I'm not really certain why it didn't arrive earlier.
All right. Well, so we're getting a little off topic because sometimes that's what I do with pregnancy brain. But with that being said, Focus Friday. Corey, you first of all, tell us about yourself. What do? You do headway, you do comedy, you are kind of an all-in-one, and plus you're only 21, right?
Yes.
Okay, so tell us more now that I gave you a nice little summary setup.
That was it. We're good now. I'm Corey Freeman. I do like to do a lot of things. Mostly I teach people how to use headway themes, which is a WordPress theme framework. It's my favorite WordPress theme framework, and it opened a lot of doors for me, and I could go on forever about it, but I'm going to try not to. And then when I'm not answering emails, I go out and I do stand-up comedy at the local bar, and I also blog about my random opinions and just kind of do whatever I feel like doing.
Has comedy, do you think, in any way helped you as far as entrepreneurship goes and pitching people or getting in front of people? Because you've actually spoken. You spoke a couple weeks ago at WordCamp too.
Yes, so. That's true. That was my second. I've spoken at 2 WordCamps and attended only 2 WordCamps. So.
Oh wow!
I've spoken at every WordCamp I've gone to thus far, and I played trumpet in high school. I was in the band, so getting in front of crowds.
I played trumpet in the band too.
Nice, nice.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
It's cool. Getting in front of people was never really a fear for me after high school, but I think comedy makes me a lot more myself and a lot less uptight, definitely.
That's good. And in business, do you feel like that's something that people enjoy? We talked to Jess Estrada last night, and you were on, and she was talking about how her personal brand, her style, her tastes are really things, the reason why a lot of people will hire her, because it differentiates her from others that are consultants. Do you think that's the same for you as far as comedy goes and your personality?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm a little intense, I've been described as, but I think it helps to really be kind of yourself everywhere you go, because then people really feel like they know you and you're more approachable. So, I mean, it's sometimes we try to separate kind of our personal selves from our business selves, and you don't really have to, as long as you're not going off your rocker every 5 minutes.
Yeah, I think that's so true. That was totally different, though, when I first started in business in it was 2007. I remember going to a business networking event, and it was even an alternative type business networking event, and people still wore suits and ties, and they were very corporate type of a piece. It's just so funny how far culture has come since then as far as entrepreneurship goes, and I feel like social media has a big part of that. I don't know about you.
I think so, yeah. I mean, when social media came out, I don't want to say came out but I guess they did a lot of things were launched when I was little, and now they're just kind of part of our everyday lives.
You were little.
People, when I was shorter. But people started getting into this idea of authenticity, and like my dad would never tweet like his random thoughts. So they get horrified when they can see just like what I'm thinking all the time in text out there. But I mean, yeah, it kind of became this big movement, and now we're all just trying to be ourselves, and I think it's better.
Well, so with that being said, I think it is interesting because one of the themes I feel like that's been happening over this past week is the idea of brand editing. And this is something that we talked about in our own company a couple years ago when an article came out about people hiring positions called like brand editors. Someone comes in and makes sure that everything is cohesive within it, from the logo to the colors used to and like email signatures to the way that things are spoken out. I mean, I just like the idea of brand editing, and I feel like Nicole from the Wardrobe Code brought it down to our wardrobe, the idea that you take an extra second. And I think that comes down to our social media too, you know, being an editor almost of what we say, especially as business owners, not necessarily keeping it politically correct like I talked to Corey about. You can be as, you know, unpolitically correct as you want if that's part of your brand. But it's a matter of just like explaining to people who it is that you are and why they should pay attention to you. So you're not always tweeting about your sandwich. You're tweeting also about, you know, WordPress tips and things like that. And the reason why I'm focusing on social media so much is because that's really what I want to talk about as far as focus goes in networking. And this idea that we, like Jess was saying, she's created real friendships online through Twitter because the common interest was Twitter at the time. And since then, her and her girlfriends have really grown into these huge positions in startups. They've become very influential on social media. And I think that's awesome. The idea that you can be very strategic, very focused about who you're talking to online and what it is that you want to see that relationship become is something that we weren't able to do 5 years ago. But now today, young female entrepreneurs can really use that to their advantage. So with that being said, Corey, do you have any guidelines as far as who you go after on Twitter? Do you follow a bunch of people, or do you follow a little amount of people? Do you use lists? How do you follow people on Twitter?
I really like to follow people who are interesting. I don't follow back everyone that follows me, and I don't really even know how people decide how to follow me, but my thing about Twitter is like I don't want just like the list of links or the list of tips, or you know, it might be like I don't follow celebrities that I love, because if I want to hear from them, I'll just go look at interviews, because then they're like talking and it's not just PR stuff. I like to see the people behind their brands, because that's who you want to talk to, like a person, not a company logo with a collection of event updates.
Well, and it's funny because I started to become much more strategic at the beginning of last year about who I followed on Twitter. I followed about like 500 people, and a lot of them were like people that I met in networking, or people that followed me that I knew, and I felt bad if I didn't follow them back. But at the same time, they weren't bringing anything to me. I wasn't benefiting in any way from that relationship. They would just push out updates out. And it's funny because the way that I follow people is not how I act on Twitter. So I'm changing the strategy in 2014 for what I put out. But as far as who I follow online, the last year, I've been very strategic. I follow, like you were saying, you don't follow celebrities. I started to follow celebrities and writers I admire, and people that I might be able to benefit in the future too. So I'm not saying that everyone would be able to benefit a celebrity, but at the same time, some of the things that they put out, I'm able to grab and use to my advantage on Twitter.
Sure.
So I think that's something that hopefully others will start taking, because I've really benefited from it. The idea that you can just grab out, and also paying attention to, like I'm talking about this Fast Company article in a minute, but paying attention if you read, I forget who told me this, the idea that you find, if you like an article, I think it was Mark from Shark Tank. Someone influential said this. If you read an article and you like it, email the writer. And so I started doing that, and it's amazing the connections and relationships I've built with people. Writers actually write you back when you email them.
Yes.
It's
they
crazy.
do.
Have you ever done that? Have you written or like made a connection?
It's so funny because I feel kind of like I feel weird saying this, but like I'm on the other end, so I'm the person that gets emailed.
Nice.
because of like articles and things I tweet and like
Oh
stand up.
yeah.
Like even one time, the guy who was delivering my sandwich was like, "Are you a stand up comedian?" And I was like, "Yeah, sometimes." So I don't often. It's so strange, but I kind of just I don't really email people that often because I get a lot of emails and I kind of go crazy if I'm trying to email someone. But I do tweet at people who I think are interesting, or I do tweet at people if I see their articles and I like them. I'm like, I like this. This is what I thought. And that's kind of how I make connections.
Yeah, and going into Fast Company, like what I'm going to talk about in a minute, or going through Forbes or Entrepreneur, or I follow some people in Glamour, and I do the same thing where you follow not necessarily just the magazine, but the writers behind it that you enjoy, and you tweet them, and
Yeah.
it's amazing how much people don't take advantage of that, the idea that you could just reach out and talk to someone. And I think it's
I'd
cool
like
that
to
you're on the
tweet
flip
at
side.
sorry.
Go ahead.
I tweet at authors I like too. I follow a lot of fantasy sci-fi authors and like I love their work and they'll put out writing tips. I'm just like, "You're so cool and you're so talented and I read your book when I was a teenager. And this is awesome." And they'll write you back and I love it. Like and I don't know. I don't necessarily plan on making connections I can use in the future as much as I just like to talk to people who I think are cool. And that's really how you build relationships is like a genuine interest in someone else.
I think that's great. And Melissa Penton is saying, I wrote to an author and she gave me a copy of her next book. So, I
Ooh.
mean, you never know when you reach out to people. And I'm mentioning Twitter, and I'm sure, Corey, I think you've said that you're not really on LinkedIn, but I've started to get on LinkedIn a little bit more. And so, like, for strategic connections, I did LinkedIn Premium to be able to in-mail people. And because that's what someone had recommended if you wanted to get in the press type of a thing. And I did not have the best results, but he did. So I don't know. That's another way to try it out. Go ahead.
I don't know. Like this is the strangest thing. I stopped really being super into LinkedIn when it suggested I make a connection with my grandmother. And it was just the strangest thing. And I was like, no, I don't know that this is going to work out for me. Like, I can just call grandma. So I don't know. I think LinkedIn is really great for people who are like those traditional professionals, like someone like my dad who's in the corporate atmosphere and kind of understands. But everything on LinkedIn is very much like you have to hold yourself together. It is about focus. Like, you have to focus in on only your business side. And I could never do that. I could never separate my ridiculous personality from my business. And so I don't know. I think that's kind of part of it.
But see, I see the flip side. I don't see people on LinkedIn necessarily, honing in on the business type A type personality when they go in there. I see people all over the board, and it's in those LinkedIn groups that I've really been able to benefit from them so far. I'm in industry type live streaming groups, and it's been awesome. You get questions answered, you get to talk to other people in your industry, and that's one of the ways that I've benefited from that type of strategic relationships online. The in-mails have been kind of a bummer because, again, I got really excited by the idea that these professionals, like you said, they're professionals that work for places. If you want an enterprise type client, the idea that you can email into a company, someone that's in HR, and find out that they actually work in HR, that's pretty awesome. But at the same time, I'm sure a lot of them get a lot of in-mail. So it's just something to think about, the idea that you're getting in different areas. And at LP Fashionista is saying, Twitter is amazing because it allows normal people to connect with people they might never be able to connect with in real life. And I agree, that's really fun. And like Corey, you were saying with the sci-fi stuff, that's something that you've benefited from. So to wrap everything up, I wanted to talk about this Fast Company article that, again, I follow Drake Bear. I've mentioned him before. He's one of my favorite writers in Fast Company. He wrote this article that says the key to getting meetings with insanely people, here's a hint, it doesn't involve the words pick your brain. And for a lot of you coaches, you're always talking about this idea that you hate it when people email you to pick your brain. But this article, what it's arguing, Corey, is that the best way to get a meeting with someone is to be able to offer something up. So you write a short 5-sentence email to them that says, in exchange for you meeting with me and talking about this, I'm going to tell you what we found by doing this. And so you have to have that X, Y, and Z that you can teach them. But a lot of people do have that. They have results. They have, especially as young female entrepreneurs, you have a connection with a demographic. You just have to be creative about what you could offer that person in exchange for being able to ask them one specific question. So you both take something away from the relationship. Have you ever done that before, Corey?
Yeah, actually, I worked with for a while the top marketing guy in the UK, and we would basically, he would trade me marketing advice for website work, and so that was kind of a barter thing. I do.
Yeah, you have an unfair advantage because you have a skill that a lot of people need, and they don't maybe want to pay for it all the time. So that's good.
I do let people. I like kind of trade with it. It's so funny because like I'm on the other end of these emails, and I just realized that, and I feel so like strange saying it, but yeah, like I really like it too. Sometimes people email me and they ask me just questions that they want answered for free, and I'm like, why would I bother doing this? But when someone comes to you and they're like, oh, well, even if they just say that they really like your work and that you've helped them, that makes you even more. Like, you can just get emotional satisfaction from knowing you're helping someone, and then you want to help them more.
That's a great point. So, Corey, thank you so much for being on the Daily Live webcast. I really appreciate it. Last night was a lot of fun having you guest co-host and fill in for at the Stacey Harris. Her name is Stacey Harris, yet I always call her at the Stacey Harris. I'm sorry, Stacey.
She's the Stacey Harris.
I know, right? The
just gotta pause.
Well, with that being said, tell everyone where they can find you afterwards. And you and I don't know if you're able to talk about it yet, but you and Stacey are doing a project together too.
We are. I'll talk about it. Okay. Sure. You can find me primarily on Twitter. I talk a lot as at Corey Freeman, and then you can just Google my name. I keep telling people that because I don't feel like spelling it. And even if you spell it wrong, you'll find me. But me and Stacey are doing what we're calling the Entrepreneurs Happy Hour. And that's at entrepreneurshappyhour.com, no spaces. I set up that website in case you're wondering how awesome I am. And basically, we're just going to do it. We're guessing it's going to be like 45 minutes to an hour, but we're just going to sit down. It's going to be like this, but longer. And we're going to talk about hot topics and the everyday life of female entrepreneurs. And we're going to banter back and forth because, me and Stacey like to talk a lot and make some jokes. And we're actually doing a sneak preview for our test. We're going to do it live on the 18th of this month, December, where you can watch us make technical mistakes.
Are you guys using Google Hangout?
We are. She is in charge of that. I just make the website look pretty. Cool. And follow people on Twitter strategically.
Nice. See? Strategy, focus,
yes.
Knowing who it is that you need to connect with. Just be smart. Think about like down the road. I want even like friendships. That's my baby shower. I've said it a number of times. Around the circle, people asked, about 30 people, how do you know Jenn? Every one of them was like, she stalked me on Twitter and then we became friends. And it's, it sounds really creepy, but at the same time, it was just super smart.
I get Twitter stalked. I feel like such a yuppie whenever. I feel like I'm getting a lot of weird, overly confident statements. I send my dog to daycare and I get Twitter stalked by people I don't know, and I get emails from fans.
It's a smart idea. Everyone should do it. Hopefully you will after this. So, Corey, thank you so much for joining us this morning, or this afternoon over you. So you've been watching the Daily Live webcast here on yfelive.com called Jenn Cast. You can find replays on YouTube and on iTunes by searching for Young Female Entrepreneurs. They're about 15 to 20 minutes long, and they've got different hot topics, tips, and awesome guest co-hosts. So thank you all so much for watching live. I really appreciate it. Tweet me at Jennifer Donogh. I'd love to connect. If you want a guest co-host, email me, jay@youngfemaleentrepreneurs.com. I'd love to connect. Until next week, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, I hope you have a great weekend and that you get strategic about who you connect with online.